Jackson Arnold signs with the Auburn Tigers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this special live edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We were dapping it up with the Montgomery radio legend himself, Darrell, Dapprich, and Jackson Arnold, the former Oklahoma quarterback, is now Auburn's quarterback, presumably going into next season. The former five-star consensus across the board, one of the more coveted quarterbacks in the transfer portal. It becomes public Saturday morning, Darrell. Jackson Arnold is now an Auburn quarterback.
Yeah, he got on campus yesterday, stayed all day, stayed most of the evening. Obviously, we were hearing some things pretty positive that were coming out. And I just think to put this in perspective, I want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room right away. There are going to be factions or, a group of Auburn fans that will see this immediately, put a negative spin on it, and think that this is who Hugh has kind of attached his ship to in this scenario. Let's just understand this. Number one, I'm one right away last week that was very high on Malik Murphy. I said I preferred Malik Murphy, and then I think I did a little bit more of a deep dive. I looked at some things. I listened to some people that were attached to the coaching staff, and I like this. I like this Jackson Arnold signing. I think that he has got a tremendous ceiling. I know that you and Jake talked about floor and ceiling yesterday, but I would say this. I would say if two people come in to Auburn for a visit, i.e. Malik Murphy and Jackson Arnold, and both have similar floors, then you do look at who probably has the higher ceiling. And again, I don't want people to automatically assume that this is it too. We're talking about Jackson Arnold, and this show will be about Jackson Arnold. And I'm glad, and I like the Jackson Arnold signing. I do.
Yeah, no, let's definitely talk about Jackson Arnold. So, I mean, an athletic guy, a guy who going into last season at Oklahoma, I mean, he was seen as kind of the guy who could light it up for Oklahoma. He's a big reason why so many folks were high on Oklahoma going into the season. And then everything that could possibly go wrong for Oklahoma kind of did. I mean, they didn't really have a whole lot of an offensive identity. Stop me if you've heard this before. But theirs was more based off of injury. I mean, they had a revolving door at offensive line at pretty much every spot. And that was kind of my big thing going into the season with Oklahoma was I don't think their offensive line is going to be good. They're replacing too much. And not only did they have to replace too much, there was a lot of injuries there. And then obviously at wide receiver, I mean, when they came to Auburn, when they came to Jordan-Hare Stadium, like they were playing, whoever they could find to put on a helmet and run routes and throw the football to. That's what they were doing with. So you can make the argument that Jackson Arnold's upside is tremendous because I do think that it is. My hesitation with this is like, is this the route we had to go? As far as like, okay, this is a guy who can be great, but like, is it possible to go ahead and get a guy who's already been great? But you can only pull from what's available to you. And to me, like you just kind of did the whole either or with Jackson Arnold and Malik Murphy. I said pretty consistently I would like Malik Murphy slightly over Jackson Arnold. That doesn't mean anything negative towards Jackson Arnold. I get the fit. I get the vision that Hugh Freeze has when looking at Jackson Arnold. Super athletic. Can he make decisions quickly on a consistent basis? I don't know if we've seen enough to fully know that, but you turn on the tape of what he did to Alabama. They used him pretty much as a running back. I don't know. I don't hate this by any stretch of the imagination, but I do still have questions.
That's why I think it's relevant to talk about the big scenario. I get that this is about Jackson Arnold, but I think you make a point that says you have pause or you have reservations. I would just caution people from jumping off the ledge and just automatically assuming this is the only quarterback that Auburn is going to take in this class, in the transfer portal. They may take somebody that comes in as a backup because they lost Hank Brown. They may bring somebody in that can compete for the starting job with Jackson Arnold that's already a starter somewhere else. Let's just pump the brakes and stop hitting the panic button and want to jump off the ledge one way or the other. In a vacuum, Jackson Arnold makes sense for Auburn. Okay. Again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I have revisionist history and didn't want Murphy over Arnold when we recorded 4 or 5 days ago. But part of looking at things and doing a deeper dive and understanding some things that might be a better fit for Auburn with his legs and that kind of thing, I like it. Do I love it? No, I like it. And here's why. I get that he got benched. I get that Hawkins came in for him. Auburn didn't even get to see him play against Auburn. Hawkins played that game. But when you look at his stats, he threw for only 1,400 yards. I think he missed 3 games as a starter. I like his rushing totals, and I like the fact that he was at about a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He did not. Now, he fumbled a lot, but that's because his offensive line got him killed. He did that with receivers that were down to 3rd and 4th string. So let's keep it in perspective. Let's look big picture. Let's understand that two things can be true at once. I like the signing. I think you need to get a kid like Jackson Arnold if he's available. You do not let him leave campus without signing him. Auburn did what they needed to do,
especially since Murphy had already visited for sure.
But Zach, let's be honest. Okay, for people that are watching this, there doesn't need to be this perception that Murphy came on campus or automatically assume Murphy came on campus. Auburn wanted Murphy. Murphy said, no, I'm going somewhere else. And so then they brought in Jackson Arnold. That's not how this works. We don't know if the coaching staff chose Arnold over Murphy, if they liked Arnold better, if he was a better fit for what they want to do in an RPO offense. We don't know that. And to make the assumption that Murphy spurned Auburn and then they turned to Jackson Arnold, just not true. It's not. And if the coaching staff wanted Arnold because of the attributes that they saw in him, there were a couple other SEC coordinators around the league last night that, it got back to us that made some comments about he could be really scary at Auburn in an Auburn offense. We'll see. I mean, that's the great part is that he'll have a chance to prove it.
Yeah, and you said Auburn coaching staff, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's Hugh Freeze that wanted Jackson Arnold. And that's really all that should matter. Right? Like we all knew going into this portal window that whoever Hugh Freeze ties himself to, like this is probably it. This is probably going to be like how he's remembered at Auburn is he tied himself to Peyton Thorne and to blank. And in this case, it appears to be Jackson Arnold. They appear to want to add another quarterback. Will this quarterback compete with Jackson Arnold or not? We'll talk about that in a second. But if Hugh Freeze has faith in him, I mean, this is a guy who wants to win. Hugh Freeze is extremely competitive. He sees the vision of what his offense could look like with Jackson Arnold in it. And I get it. I get the ceiling. It's just, I think we're going to remember the offense last year because of the floor, and I do think Jackson Arnold has a floor. So
let me ask you this. Do you agree? Yeah. Do you agree with the sentiment I made early in the show that Murphy and Arnold have similar floors?
No.
Okay,
no.
So you think Malik Murphy's floor is higher?
That's why I liked him more.
Okay.
But I think Jackson Arnold's ceiling is much higher.
But I agree with what you said yesterday is that Auburn needs to get the guy with the higher floor at this point. I'm just not convinced. I'll push back a little bit that Murphy's floor is that much higher than Arnold's. That remains to be seen. I think they're very similar. I
think the only way you can make that case then is I think we saw Jackson's floor at Oklahoma. I guess we didn't see Malik Murphy's floor at Duke. Is that your argument?
I think they're just, I believe because of the variables, we didn't get to see the true floor that Jackson Arnold would have had last year at Oklahoma if he had some things that maybe Malik Murphy had, and if he had a better receiving core and didn't have an offensive line that was just a sieve. I think the floor was tainted by what was put around him. And I also wouldn't put too much stock in the fact that the kid got benched, because a lot of quarterbacks get benched and come back and play. And he ended up resuming
Don't put
the role.
stock that he got benched. What?
That's
a big deal.
That shouldn't be the be all and end all as the argument that the kid it can't play at Auburn or be a good quarterback at Auburn because he got benched for a couple games at Oklahoma is what I'm saying. Because if that's the case, then other quarterbacks have been benched at other schools, including Auburn, and came back and played really, really well after they got benched. And I'm not talking about Peyton Thorne. So Brandon Cox got benched and lost his job and came back and played really well. Bo Nix got benched and came back and played really well. I'm just saying that you lose your job. That doesn't need to be a death sentence is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're going to disagree on that one, but that's okay. That is totally okay. I think with what we should have been able to attract based off of what we've heard, I don't know. I just feel like we're settling to some extent.
We don't know if that ship has sailed yet. We don't know that that's again, there's only one quarterback that is committed. Auburn has to take two. The $1 million question is, who is the second one that they're going to take? Is it a potential starter that Jackson Arnold's going to have to beat out or compete with, or is it an automatic backup? We don't know that yet, and that ship has not sailed.
That is true. That is true. And so if Jackson Arnold, I mean, we just don't know. Like, is Jackson Arnold expected to be a guy who competes for it? Is he definitely the starter? Is there a chance he's like the number 2 quarterback that Auburn signs? I mean, that matters, and we just won't know the answer to that for another few weeks. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Whew. Okay, so what does this mean for Auburn's 2025 season if Jackson Arnold is the starter? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time has you covered. Darrell, I've gotten so many DMs of Auburn fans getting ready to go to Holiday Hoopsgiving in Atlanta. And like, I guess that game starts in like an hour and a half to watch Auburn play Ohio State. You've used Game Time. You texted me. Was it last night? Were you
last night?
Me? Yeah. You got some crazy tickets for a soccer match for like $40.
4 tickets to the United States men's national team in Orlando, taking my family, and I got like almost half off. I'm down close. It was an amazing deal. I couldn't even believe that I got it, to be honest with you. I was fully expecting to be higher up.
Yeah, no, you sent me a picture of the seat, and I'm like, goodness gracious. You told me the price. That's insane. Hey, you can do this too. Download the Game Time app, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Darrell, what time is it?
It is game time.
Yes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. So as far as what this means immediately, I think I can't imagine they would have signed Jackson Arnold if they hadn't have like talked to some of the guys that I don't want to say we're on the fence, but like you got to think Cam Coleman's aware of this. You got to think Perry Thompson's aware of this. You got to think Eric Singleton Jr., the Georgia Tech star receiver. You got to think that he was, Jackson Arnold's name was brought up. And I don't think Hugh Freeze and the staff would have signed Jackson Arnold if the pass catchers in the room were not excited about it. So I think this helps Auburn in more than one way. Not that I was worried about retention in the receiver room when it comes to the young guys, but I do think this helps with it.
Absolutely it does. And I think I know that CJ Daniels went on record, the LSU transfer that was visiting, saying he wanted to see who the quarterback would be. And that's, everybody has that right and should be that way, should be diligent of who's going to be throwing them the ball. So, there were some reports that kind of made its way to us that there were other people reaching out to Auburn now that were in the transfer portal with interest at playing at Auburn because they want to play with Jackson Arnold. That to me speaks volumes. Why is that? Is it because of his reputation out of high school? Do they feel like he wasn't given a fair opportunity at Oklahoma? I do know this. Dylan Gabriel played at Oklahoma, had a good career there, left to go to Oregon. A lot of Oklahoma fans scapegoated Dylan Gabriel and said he was the reason why they didn't make the college football playoff a couple years ago. Look what he ended up doing. I'm not saying Oregon's coaching staff is Auburn's in the way of developing quarterbacks because there is no evidence or proof of that. I'm just saying a change of scenery sometimes can allow you to.
No, I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%.
And so for Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel, it happens. Again, I get your point about having reservation, but let's say 2025, toe to leather in Waco, Texas, August 30th, Jackson Arnold's the quarterback. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about a improvement or Auburn looking better than they did this year with Peyton Thorne under center, with Arnold being the guy?
Yeah, I think Jackson Arnold is better than Peyton Thorne. When it comes down to it, I think Jackson Arnold is better than Peyton Thorne, and I think the natural development of the rest of the roster will be better. Like, this puts Auburn in a situation to be better than they were a year ago. Now, I don't think this signing makes Auburn a threat to go 9-3 or 10-2, which is obviously what you hope for. I love the upside of this signing. It's the potential that could go awry that concerns me with this. But I totally get the upside, the fit in the RPO system, his athleticism. And there's something that I've seen throughout the week, and I've seen it a ton in the live chat just now, Darrell, is people calling Jackson Arnold, Peyton Thorne 2.0. I even saw a Zach Calzada 2.0. Let me explain what the difference is here. Jackson Arnold is a guy who came out of high school as a 5-star plus, according to On3, which means he's a 5-star by all of the major recruiting cycles. That is not what Peyton Thorne is. This is a guy that's always going to get the benefit of the doubt because of how talented he is. Like, just natural talent. That's not what Peyton Thorne was. That's not what Zach Calzada was. These guys get treated differently. These guys that don't even pan out. If you're a 5-star, you get a shot to get drafted at a lot of positions, even if your college career wasn't that good, because the clay is there, because you're so physically gifted as an athlete. That is not Peyton Thorne. That is not Zach Calzada. So if you're not a fan of it, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you what to think. But that's not what this is. Like, Jackson Arnold is a totally different type lottery ticket than Peyton Thorne is. So let's don't compare the two.
When you try to compare a kid that's played 1 year of college football and started one season of college football compared to a kid that was compared to a player that was making those mistakes as a 5th-year senior and had played 4 years of major college football. By the time Peyton Thorne got to Auburn, he had played 3 seasons at Michigan State. So, and then when some of the issues arose last year, he had played his 4th year. When some of the issues, including against Oklahoma, happened this year, it was his 5th year of college football. To compare somebody that's played 5 years compared to 1 year as a starter is absolutely apples and oranges. And so let's see what Jackson Arnold would be, his 3rd year or his 4th year, if that's the case and if that's how it plays out. Again, I would just pump the brakes and understand. I would be comfortable with him being the starter on August 30th against Baylor, especially in the scenario you described with other players around him, people wanting to play with him. I definitely would like that scenario and feel good about it. Do I feel like that takes Auburn into a playoff contender? No, I agree with you. But you got to walk before you run, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. I get the upside. And if you tell me that Auburn's going to get another guy that isn't potentially in the portal yet, I love it, right? Because then, the timing of this is interesting. What does this mean for Walker?
Yeah. Well, and when you talk about timing too, let's look at what is out there currently right now. Again, we can totally speculate what might be out there 2 weeks from now when the playoffs end, and that may be a whole different thing. And remember, Auburn will have room. But let's talk about who is in the portal right now. Tell me right now, other than you've already mentioned Murphy. I mean, I know you're high on Caden Salter, but did you see some of his?
I'd rather have Jackson Arnold than Caden Salter.
Exactly. I mean, look at his stats, what happened, and he was playing at Liberty. I mean, what's out there right now? Connor Wegman? I mean, really? I mean,
Well, Connor Wegman's going to Houston.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right?
He's already committed to Houston. I mean, Mateer, that everybody was so high on, not even in the portal yet. Okay. So
is he not?
No.
I thought he entered.
I just saw something yesterday that said he was still practicing with his team and considering that he may be a spring entry into the portal. So, he was one of those deals like I thought with Raiola, where all these reports came out planning to, expected to, but that doesn't mean did.
Yeah, and we saw that with Noah Fafita. I don't think he ever officially entered
either. Exactly.
So,
I mean, these names that Auburn liked that everyone was expecting to get into the portal, a couple of them have not gotten into the portal. I don't know. Let's just say this. It's you know it as well as I do when word got out yesterday that Pete Naco said Jackson Arnold is going to take his visit with Auburn. He did not sign, and he was going to take a visit with Mississippi State today. People melted and lost their mind. Oh, Auburn can't close. They had him on campus, and they're letting him leave. You can't have it both ways. If you're pissed that he was going to leave and go to Mississippi State today for a visit, then you can't be upset that he ended up signing with Auburn. Auburn closed and did what he was supposed to do. There were a lot of people, Zach, that were upset and were very negative and melted because they thought he was going to leave campus without signing and was going to visit Mississippi State today and go see Levy. He didn't. So let's be consistent, I guess, on train of thought on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I think that's well said. So, yes, I think Jackson Arnold is an upgrade over Peyton Thorne. I think their floors are about the same, but Jackson's ceiling is like, it's not even like a same building. Like
one year college football.
Yeah. One guy's ceiling is like a 2-story house and the other one's a skyscraper.
Don't you like the stat to me that jumps off? I mean, stats are one thing, eyeball tests are another. Let's get some W's. I get all that. But I do like the fact that, he, from a throwing standpoint, he seemed to take care of the football much better. 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He threw 12 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, and he had almost 450 yards rushing. I get he only threw for 1,400, but when you have, your punter out there as a wide receiver, you have to take that consideration. So you're not that high on the turnover ratio thing. You don't think that helps Auburn win games last year that they turned it over, that they would have won had they not?
I mean, it didn't help Oklahoma win games. Hold on.
Well, they won more games than Auburn, and they beat Auburn's biggest rival by 3 scores. So
I love that. But in that game, he threw it 11 times in that game.
Didn't have to. I mean, I don't give a crap how you cut up the cow. Just show me the steak.
Yeah, but if you're talking about like saving, taking care of the football, but he's not throwing it. I mean, that's not.
I'm talking about.
So against LSU, he was 14 of 21 passes. Like I wish Auburn would have just thrown it 21 times.
Well, if it was a 4-to-1 ratio where he had 4 touchdown passes and 1 interception, I get your point. But it was 12-3. So I mean, he still went for double-digit touchdown passes. And again, if you throw it in
games because he got benched or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to see that same offensive philosophy being attributed to Auburn coaches, that if you don't have to throw it to win, don't freaking throw it. And the more you throw it, the better chances it is to get intercepted. Who's to say that if he would have thrown it 20 times against Alabama, they might have picked a couple off and they lose the game? They did what they needed to do and used his attributes.
So what you're saying is awesome. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Hugh Freeze is going to use his attributes?
Oh, see, that's okay. That's a whole different topic.
Because you're kind of describing like Thorne's strengths, and we didn't use them.
Well, that is the $1 million question. So that is why him hitching his wagon to Arnold is going to be the success or the downfall of Hugh Freeze. If Arnold comes and is the starter next year, when Arnold comes, if he's the starter next year, and Hugh Freeze does not use his talents and attributes, i.e. his legs and different things like that, and tries to force a round peg in a square hole, then someone else will be coaching Jackson Arnold in 2026.
It's just it's so interesting. Like when you look at Jackson Arnold's stuff, like 14 of 21 against LSU, they lost that game by 20 points. 14 of 21 passing, but 17 carries for 75 yards. It's like, okay, like that's fine. It's not great, but that's fine. But like Hugh Freeze isn't going to run him 17 times. I don't think. Alabama, 25 carries for 131. Like, that's awesome. We're not going to do that with him, though.
Do you think, though, that could have been a byproduct of having to run Jackson Arnold out of necessity because the receivers were not good at all? So you didn't have that. Maybe having Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons and either an Eric Singleton or C.J. Daniels changes that.
C.J. Daniels, interesting. I see what you did there. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on how he could be used and it could work. It's just weird. It's just weird because Hugh Freeze hasn't done that yet at Auburn. Like, I mean, how many times have we talked about this? Like, use Jarquez Hunter, run the ball more with Peyton. Why are we asking Peyton to throw it so much? Like, that's.
What if Arnold, even as a sophomore, has better decision-making skills, including, i.e., taking care of the ball, not throwing it when he's supposed to throw it into smaller windows and getting picked off, and has some more physical attributes as a five-star that Peyton Thorne doesn't have, that Freeze might be able to utilize a little better because the tool belt's bigger. Who knows? $1 million question, Zach. We won't know until we see it. But if it does happen that way and he is underutilized, then it doesn't matter because someone else is going to be coaching him anyway. That's my opinion. He has hitched his wagon and the future of his coaching career at Auburn to this quarterback choice, whether it's Arnold or whether it's someone that's currently playing in the playoffs. We shall see. If that's the case, he better utilize those person's strengths or else someone else will be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. But maybe Arnold has a stronger arm. Maybe Arnold is better throwing on the run. Maybe Arnold is a better decision maker than Peyton Thorne, right? Maybe Arnold doesn't throw that ball into the Oklahoma linebacker in the flat for a pick six and Auburn wins that game. There's a lot of what ifs and intangibles. But I would say until we see them play out, it's probably premature to speculate that this isn't a good thing or right decision, like a lot of people are assuming right now, saying, oh, if this is who Hugh Freeze is going all in with, it's over. I mean, my gosh, that's a little bit early to – I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that that's the –
I'm just asking the questions. Like, yeah. I get the upside, but I just, like, that's not my – like, what are the odds we're going to, like, totally just tap out his potential? Like, you feel good about tapping out his potential? Because if we do, if you tell me, hey, there's a 90% chance that we reach the ceiling with Jackson Arnold, we're all stoked.
Yeah.
But it's just, how often are we doing that? Like, how often have we done that with a quarterback in the last 10 years?
I think I feel confident and comfortable enough, and I could be wrong, and this could be me booging, and that's fine. People can save this as a receipt, this recording. I feel confident that Auburn's coaching staff will get more out of him than Oklahoma's did.
I'm fine with that.
And I think at this point, let's see where that takes Auburn. Does that take Auburn from 5 to 8 wins? We'll see.
He fumbled 9 times last year.
He did, but he also got sacked a ton because that offensive line was traffic cones. And I mean, we talked about that. I get it. Turnovers are turnovers, but I put less emphasis
a lot all the time and still don't fumble at 9 times.
I mean, he also ran it a lot more at a higher rate. So there's a possibility that I get that. I get it. I mean, I'd almost rather a quarterback that if I feel like could get protected better from a better offensive line and the fumbles will go down rather than a quarterback that throws it for as many interceptions that happened. And just the intellectual aspect of the game too, like decision-making, head scratchers, getting hit from behind and getting stripped on a strip sack fumble is not a decision-making problem from a quarterback like throwing into double coverage is, or throwing into a linebacker that's being camouflaged in the flat that you don't see. To me, that's different.
I get it.
One's a physical error. One seems to be a mental error. And there's considerations for both. Now, if it's a tip ball, and let's be fair, I want to be fair to Peyton Thorne. He had some interceptions last year that were tip balls too.
Sure. Yeah, I get it.
But I don't know. I'm willing to – I get it. I was on the Murphy train, right? I came out publicly and told a friend of mine, somebody texted him and said, I like Murphy better than Arnold just 4 days ago. I said that. Yeah. But I do believe that you have a right to change your opinion if you get more data and you get more information and things start to emerge after visits that might sway your mind or make you think that, oh, okay, I can see this. I'm not trying to convince myself. And I'm not saying that there might not be someone out there that Darrell Dapprich wouldn't prefer at quarterback 1 over Jackson Arnold. Let's just wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get why Hugh Freeze wanted Arnold. I get it. I get it. And I can't wait to see if it works. Because I think you can make the argument that it's going to work. Does this make Auburn a threat to go 9-3 next year? I don't know, but I do think they'll be better than they were last year. And that's kind of all we can ask for right now.
And I'm going to 100% agree with one of your points.
Okay.
Hugh Freeze has not earned the benefit of the doubt yet when it comes to who he selects and who he's all in with. And he wants Jackson Arnold. Yeah. Okay, fine. You haven't proven the guy you want has panned out with the Peyton Thorne situation, some of the guys that he could have gotten last year that he didn't. So, but we also need to understand that there were certain guys last year that he wanted that didn't want to play the game, didn't want to match certain things, and they left. And people were upset about that. He procured him last night. He locked him down. If he didn't, we'd be hearing the other side of that argument.
Nope, that's true. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. So as far as we know, and things could change later in the portal, we'll see. But Hugh Freeze has picked Peyton Thorne, and Jackson Arnold. And I'm excited to see what happens with Jackson Arnold for sure. All right, we'll be live again in like 2 hours. 2.5 hours?
Well, about 2:15, right? The Auburn game will end at about 2:15.
Game starts at noon Central?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
so hopefully talking about a nice Auburn dub. And if we look dressed similar, everyone will understand why. Because we were going right back on the same day, right?
That's right. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. Thank you all so much for helping us get over 20,000. That's just so cool. So thank you all so much for that. And we'll be back in a few hours. So yeah, be sure you're subscribed, turn on the notification bell so you know when we go live in about 3.5 hours or so. So until then, this has been Locked On Auburn.